Um, Today is Thursday, October 29th,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here with Mildred Simmons, and I'm also sitting here with her husband Norbert. And so my sister Anne and I, Linda Sue Cockroft Head, and Anne Marshall, have come to visit with Mildred to just get some talk about life in the younger days and with her dad and mom, because we want to celebrate um, George and Millie for helping get the church started here in Greeley. Um, what are some of your favorite memories about your mom and dad? About how they raised you, or about things that you did?
The fact that they raised us as Christians. My dad and mother were converted in 1915, 16, and they were living on the homestead
And where was that?
in western Kansas,
Okay.
north of Scott City. And my dad, as soon as they had did the 5 years for the homestead, they sold the place. He went to God's Bible School to be a minister. He came back from Cincinnati, Ohio to Topeka, Kansas, got a job, and helped with the mission there down in town, and worked enough to get all his school debts paid off and some furniture. Then he had his first pastorate when I was about 8 years old.
Wow. I know that he helped build the church here, and I see by your story of their moves that he also was a carpenter and did some other building of churches.
Yeah.
Where did he learn that trade?
As a farmer.
As a farmer. His dad taught him?
They had to learn everything.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
looked like he enjoyed it, and he did a good job.
Yeah. That's like my husband.
Good, good. And tell me a little bit about your mom. What are some things you did with your mom?
Well, Mom was a seamstress. She had, when she was 16 years old and still in school, she did sewing for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And she made almost all our clothes, and hers too.
Yeah.
She was a wonderful cook.
Yeah, she didn't have very much to cook with, but she made everything count.
Yeah.
On their first pastorate, they made about $7 a day in the Santa Fe shops, and they went to the first pastorate and were guaranteed $400 a year.
Wow. Oh my
So
goodness.
we had to have squirrel and rabbit and squab to eat. They had a big garden spot and a grape arbor, and we lived good. The people shared their bounty.
How long did your father pastor before he retired?
Well, let's see, he pastored 3 years at Excelsior, 5 years at Formoso, 2 years at Antioch, 5 years at Phillipsburg, 4 years at, wait a minute. Yeah, 4 years at Ottawa. Then they moved to Denver and helped with the church, but they didn't pastor.
Right, at Denver first? At the Wesleyan Church?
It was just a beginning church then.
Okay.
And he did some, sorry.
It's all right. Just whatever you want to share, I'd love to hear.
I can't think of the
She's
words.
trying to think of the words she wants to do.
It's all right.
I have that problem too, Mildred.
He was real estate, and he helped find a church to buy in Denver, but it was originally made for a mortuary.
Yeah, I remember that.
Interesting.
And
I went to that church.
It worked real good as a church.
And then they had pastor's quarters or something up overhead, because I remember the offices were the pastors when I was there.
Oh yeah.
And they lived upstairs.
Yeah. When I worked in Denver, Lauren and Virginia were pastors.
The Millers.
Lauren Miller.
Yes.
And she was having, I think, menopause, and she couldn't stand something, so my mother and dad moved upstairs the Millers moved down to our house. They just traded.
Oh, really? They traded homes.
Yeah.
How long before your dad then came to Greeley? How did that happen that he
Well, they asked him to come to start a church in 1950, and they were here 4 years, 1954.
And he actually built a little church.
He did an awful lot of the carpenter work.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the other, you were in Denver working then, weren't you? Do you remember did you come up to Greeley every once in a while?
About every other weekend.
Okay. Did you remember any of the other people that were there, either helping or?
Mrs. Reed.
Yes.
Ines Reed.
Mr. and Mrs. Reed. He was still, I don't know if he was still alive then.
No.
And one day, Mrs. Reed wanted Mother to go help her go visiting, and she insisted that Mother put on a hat and gloves.
Oh, wow. You know, Mom and Dad and Lita and I taught Sunday school at that little Sunday school that the Reeds had before they moved into the church. Yeah, we taught Sunday school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Who else was a part of the work crew at the church, Anne? Besides you?
Actually, there was I can't remember what this boy's name was that lived with your mom and dad. What was his name? That lived with your mom and daddy, a teenage boy.
I could have told you if I didn't ask.
But I think it was just mom, just dad and.
Is it Leroy?
No, it wasn't Leroy.
Well, his dad passed away. His mother had a little girl beside. I know who it is.
Did he live with them very long?
Didn't know, not always, just visiting or. They was from Phillipsburg, Kansas too.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't remembered that.
Yeah. we met them there, and I don't remember why they moved to Denver, but then he died and left 2 little kids, and I think his name was Leroy.
It's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember either. I just remember the young man that lived with your parents.
Yeah, he was just a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was younger than Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, he was probably what, 14 or 15, something like that.
Not any older than that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
wondered if he was even that old.
He might not have been.
Do you remember how many people were at the church when it started?
There were 6 charter members.
Right.
Your parents and
Chester and Inez,
yeah,
Reed.
and the folks.
And who were those people from Alt or that other couple?
Yeah, the Gregorys.
No, it wasn't Gregory's. It was
What are the couple? Where are they from?
they were from Eaton or Alt or somewhere up there. That was the other couple.
Oh,
The Reeds and Mom and Dad, and then this other couple.
I don't remember that there was a other couple.
I was hoping. I never did know what their name was. I just knew their last name. And
Did they stay going to church there very long?
I never did. They were just kind of part of the prayer group at the Reed's house at 1230 4th Street. That's where the Reeds lived. I always remembered that.
1234th Street. I think that Jim mentioned that there was a prayer meeting every Sunday or every week.
Yes.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I didn't know anything about it, basically. When I learned was Mom and Dad had been going and praying, and none of us knew anything about it.
Why they were going and why they were praying.
And why they were praying. I didn't know that until they bought the plot of ground there where they built the first church, and they took me over there by it and told me that we were gonna go have a new church. And of course, my friends were at the Free Methodist Church. I didn't want to move. I was a teenager.
How old were you, Anne?
I was 17.
You were a senior in high school.
Yeah, I was a senior in high school.
Yeah.
You were at the Free Methodist Church?
When we moved from Kansas in 1947, we looked for a Wesleyan church, and there was no Wesleyan church. So we worshipped at the Free Methodist Church, and they were so excited to have us because they did not have anybody that could play the piano, and Mom could play the piano, and had all of those kids.
Could sing and help.
Yes,
and,
right.
Yeah.
And we were playing instruments then. Lauren had the alto sax, I had the tenor sax, Lita had the clarinet, and Jim, he did
a French
horn, and then the
trombone.
On the trombone.
And then Donna led the singing.
Yes, right. That first service, we were in the living room of where your parents lived, that little parsonage, and it was just our family and the Duncans.
Yeah.
And the Reeds.
And yes, I guess the Reeds were there. I don't remember them basically, but I suppose they were.
They came pretty rarely.
Yeah.
I came about every weekend for a while.
Yeah.
I was working in Denver.
Who were some of the first new people that you remember coming to church after, our family?
I remember the Broncos.
Okay.
Marjorie and was the daughter, and the son.
Who?
Bronca. They had Bronca's Little Italy restaurant, and Mrs. Bronca and her 2 kids, Marjorie and I can't remember what the son's name was, went to that Sunday school, the little Sunday school that the Reeds had. And then there was a Mrs. Anderson, and she had 2 kids, but I don't remember what their name was. But, and then, of course, we remember the Noes. Evelyn and her family, and Peggy No, and Mark, and
her sister Patsy?
Patty. Yes,
Well,
they were part of that Sunday school.
I didn't remember any of the people much because I wasn't there
Yeah, you weren't there
long enough.
for the. You probably came after the little church was built, and these were at the Sunday school before. That's where I got acquainted with them,
About the,
and then they moved on over. But
What-
they weren't there for the first service.
What were some of your dad and mom's qualities that you remember, you recall? What were some of their strengths and qualities, character qualities, besides being Christian?
if they thought it was wrong, they wouldn't do it. If there was any question whether it was wrong or not, they wouldn't do it. A lot of people said, well, you know,
You could fudge a little bit, huh?
yeah. But no, they were very strict about that.
Good. Okay. I think I'm going to stop and we'll just visit for a while.